My name is Adrian Cole. I'm an urban planner. My life is built on logic, on turning forgotten spaces into something new, something useful. Order is my currency. So, when a distant relative I barely knew left me a 4-story Victorian apartment building, I saw it as a project. A beautiful, dilapidated structure on a now prime piece of coastal real estate. Structurally sound, immensely valuable, a perfect candidate for adaptive reuse. But there was a catch. A non-negotiable legal clause buried in the deed, written in dense, archaic script. It was a rule that had been passed down with the building for over 100 years. Apartment 101, on the ground floor, must never be rented, occupied, renovated, or used for any purpose. It had to remain vacant, forever. Violate the clause, and I would lose the entire property. At first, I wrote it off. An old family superstition, a zoning quirk lost to time. But as an urban planner, the idea of unused space, a deliberate void in the heart of a valuable property, felt like an affront to everything I believe in. Curiosity is a persistent itch. One night, armed with the building's master key, I decided to scratch it. The lock on apartment 101 turned with a quiet click. I pushed the door open, expecting dust, decay, the scent of a century of neglect. What I found was impossible. The air was clean. There was no dust. The furniture was a strange collage of decades, a 1920s oak sideboard next to a floral 70s couch, a rotary phone from the 50s near a clunky 90s television. It wasn't abandoned. It was just waiting. The light in the room was warm, but it had no source. No lamps were on. It was as if the room itself just remembered being lit. As I stood there, trying to make sense of it all, I noticed something else. A sound. A faint, polite murmur, like a conversation happening in the next room. It seemed to be coming from behind the closed bedroom door at the back of the apartment. But here's the strange part. The sound was only audible when I stood in the exact center of the living room. It was like the room had a specific listening spot. If I took a single step in any direction, silence. I'd step back to the center, and the voices would return. Low, indistinct, a ghost of a conversation. Over the next few weeks, I became obsessed. I brought in audio recorders, but they captured nothing but static. I tried using measuring equipment, but every reading came back normal. Only my own ears, standing in that one precise spot, could perceive the sound. The phenomenon defied every law of physics I knew. I started listening more closely, trying to decipher the words. That's when I realized the conversation wasn't a conversation at all. It was a loop, a polite greeting, a short, quiet exchange, a soft laugh, the sound of a chair shifting on a wooden floor, then a brief silence, and then it would start all over again. The entire loop was exactly 3 seconds long. I dove into the city archives, digging through old deeds, letters, and census records. I was searching for a tragedy, a crime, something dramatic enough to leave an echo like this. But the history of apartment 101 was painfully, almost comically, unremarkable. It had been home to clerks, widows, young couples, immigrant families. There were no recorded deaths in the apartment, no violence, just dozens of ordinary lives lived and forgotten. And then, standing in the archives, surrounded by brittle paper and the smell of dust, I finally understood. The apartment wasn't haunted by a person. It was occupied by time itself. Every moment that had ever happened within those walls was still happening. They weren't just memories. They were present, layered on top of each other, compressed into a constant ambient hum. The apartment was a knot in the fabric of time, a place where moments never finished leaving. The living room where I stood only held the echoes, the faint whispers of what had been. The bedroom, I realized with a sudden chilling certainty, was where those moments entered. The true horror of the legal clause dawned on me. It wasn't written to protect the apartment from the world. It was written to protect the world from the apartment. I found a collection of old family letters, one mentioning a peculiar stillness about the place. Another warned a nephew to never cross the second threshold. The letters hinted at what happened to those who ignored the warning. They weren't killed. They weren't erased. They were absorbed, folded into a specific mundane moment from the apartment's past. A polite greeting from 1908, a comment about the weather in 1946, a quiet laugh from 1972. They became another 3-second loop in the background noise. Forever, my life as a planner, once governed by blueprints and spreadsheets, now revolves around this one impossible space. My designs for the building's renovation have become defensive. I'm creating hallways that curve subtly away from apartment 101. I am designing the lobby so that no one could ever accidentally stand in that listening spot. I am building a fortress around a memory, but the fixation is a part of me now. Lately, when I stand in the living room and listen to the murmurs, I think I can hear my own voice in the mix. Just a faint trace, a whisper that wasn't there before. Tonight, I'm standing here again, in the pristine, timeless living room of apartment 101. My hand is on the cold brass doorknob of the bedroom. The air is still. The loop of voices continues its gentle, eternal cycle. And I realize that time has been incredibly patient. It's been waiting for me, and it has already made space. The voices are growing clearer now. And one of them sounds exactly like mine. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy stories that blur the line between reality and the unknown, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You never know what you might find in the quietest of rooms.